What rank is Naked Snake turns out to be a surprisingly difficult question to actually answer. It's never mentioned anywhere in the game, Snake's uniform gives us absolutely zero clue as to what rank he could be, and we know little about his life before entering Fox. But I do believe that using real history and the game's limited lore, we can cobble together a pretty good estimate as to what rank Snake was, as well as a few other things. Now, what is that background we need to know? Well, we know that Snake has mentioned fighting in Korea during a radio call, but I couldn't find anything saying exactly when he joined the army. Now, most people in the Metal Gear community seem to believe that Snake joined up when he was only 15, which would mean he was shipped off to Korea in 1950 at the start of the war. Now, I would not put it past a guy like Snake to lie about his age to serve. Hell, one of my uncles was not only 16 when he went to Vietnam, but he also snuck down from Canada to do so. But the closest thing I could find to the 1950 date is the MGS3 database, which is not a reliable source. However, I will be assuming Snake joined the army in June 1950 at the start of the Korean War. It just makes sense for his character. Anyways, rank. For Korea, I'll be going off of these two charts here because it's both the ranks used at the time of the war and the layout of a normal rifle squad. Unless Snake had some sort of special skill, which we'll assume he didn't, he'll have entered the army as a recruit. Now, it's important to note that during Korea, there were extreme manpower shortages to the point that some people were not even sent to boot camp. Whether Snake went to boot camp or not, who knows? He never brings it up. We can guess, but you can decide that for yourself. Otherwise, wartime promotions were also given out like candy, so assuming Snake joined up at the start of the war in June, he was almost certainly a corporal by the end of the year. And if that's too rapid for you, then at the latest, early 1951 is when he would have gotten his promotion, but either way, it was gonna be very rapid. And from there, we don't know shit. However, I do reckon it's safe to assume that Snake served all 3 years of the conflict, and by the end, given the fact that he is an extremely skilled soldier and the rapidity of wartime promotions, I believe he would have been a Sergeant First Class. Now, after the Korean War, our great hero, or great enemy if you're North Korean, would have been an experienced combat veteran and squad leader. And evidently, the army would have recognized Snake's talents because he was not only not discharged after the war, he was also kept in Asia. Now, unfortunately for Jack, most of this would almost certainly have just been desk jockey work because no war means there's nothing else to do other than burn time. However, we do know from this dialogue in MGS3, Snake was involved in the Bikini Atoll testing in 1954, and sometime after this is when he would have had to have met the boss. Now, for a second, let me go back to the MGS4 database because this is where it's important. This database says that Snake and the boss met in 1950, before the Korean War, but that just can't be the case because listen to this dialogue from the boss at the end of MGS3.
It was November 1st, 1951. I was in the Nevada desert participating in atomic testing, Snake. You were an atomic test subject, weren't you? On Bikini Atoll. That's part of the reason I was drawn to you. You and I are alike.
Yeah, not the most reliable database ever, is it? So from here on out, we're going to assume the boss and Snake met in July 1954, which is a few months after Snake's involvement in Bikini Atoll. And here's the part of my video I think may be controversial to some, but I don't believe the boss would have just let Snake stay as an enlisted soldier. For one, if Snake was made a junior officer, it would be a lot easier to justify keeping him in the field. Lieutenants, captains, and even majors all still do field work, whereas if Snake had kept his current trajectory as a Sergeant First Class, it'd have been a sure path to him being a permanent desk jockey sooner than later. Second, and most important of all in my opinion, was just the fact of who the boss was. Remember, this woman was planning air raids on German bases in North Africa, and given the fact the Cobra unit, which the boss formed by the way, played a critical role in ending World War II, I have no doubt in my mind she would have been an officer herself. And if that wasn't enough for you, she was also considered the mother of the US Special Forces. I just couldn't see her not making her apprentice commission. So with that in mind, let's say Snake impressed the boss so much that she took him on as her apprentice just a month after they met. Now, the motto of the military is hurry up and wait, so let's say it took an additional month for Snake to be sent to OCS. From what I could gather, back in the 1950s, OCS was about 22 weeks long, or 5 months. So if we assume Snake began his OCS training in September 1954, that would mean Snake would have gotten his commission as a second lieutenant in February 1955. And since promotions to first lieutenant are more or less automatic after 18 months, Butterbar Snake would be promoted again by August 1956. Now during all of this and all the way to June 1959, Snake and the boss would be developing CQC together and Snake would be learning all he knows from her. But sadly for Snake, he'll have to start a timer because June 1959 is exactly when the boss left Snake for her secret mission. But it's not all bad news for Jack, because a promotion to captain takes about 4 years, so sometime in 1960, Snake would have received that promotion. And so far as I can tell, this is more or less Snake's last promotion for a very long time. Promotions to Major at the minimum take about 5 years, so by the time of Snake Eater in 1964, Snake would 100% still be a captain. Now I do need to address something here real quick, because I know someone's gonna bring it up, but yes, I know Snake was a Green Beret in Vietnam who saw combat there. However, that has zero impact on this video or his rank, so I had to cut this segment for his Vietnam service, and I'll make it its own video in the future. So you should subscribe for that. But the real question here is this. Would Snake have gotten an expedited promotion to Major during or after the events of MGS3? Well, I don't really think so. Remember, during the game, Snake is under the command of Major Zero, and whilst positional authority like this can happen, it's really uncommon, and it would be quite strange if a Major was taking orders from another Major. So for that alone, I'm just gonna say Snake would still have to be Captain Jack for the whole duration of the game. It also doesn't help at all that the Virtuous mission was a complete L. Now, what about the very end of the game when we're getting the title of Big Boss from the President? Surely Snake would be promoted for that, right? Well, again, I don't think so. For one, Snake's operation was so covert that hardly anyone knew about it, so giving him an extremely early promotion would have raised a lot of questions. But also, it would mean that Major Zero would have to be promoted to Lieutenant Colonel, because otherwise we're just gonna run into the same aforementioned problem. However, there's also another thing I need to bring up, and that's the fact that Fox wasn't actually a part of the army. It was a component of the CIA. So even if Snake still belonged to the army, he wasn't performing an army duty, so therefore the Virtuous mission and Operation Snake Eater wouldn't count for his army career. So that's it. We've answered my questions. Snake is almost certainly a captain by the end of MGS3. And with that, this video is finally done, and a lot was sacrificed to make it. Look, I didn't just cut the Vietnam segment of this game. I also had a part of this video where I was gonna go over all of Snake's ribbons, patches, insignia, and just everything that could go on his uniform. But when that segment of this video was done being recorded, it ended up doubling the length, and that was just straying way too far from my original vision. So to make up for that, both of those, the Vietnam and the medals video, they will be separate. They will come in 2026. I don't know when. I want to get them done sooner than later, so you should stick around for that and watch my other videos whilst you're at it.